Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we are going to be working on an Integra DA. This is a subscriber card that he brought up for a tune, and it has an LS VTEC engine. I believe he's got 12-to-1 pistons in it, and a set of like blocks type A cams, I believe he said. I'm not exactly sure. And I'm assuming cylinder head is built up a little bit, and yeah, we're going to tune this thing up and see what kind of power we can make with it. I'm just going to kind of do my visual inspection of the car, make sure that everything is going to be okay. We're going to make sure that like all our fluids are topped off, and I always just like, it's a habit of mine, just like check the tension on the timing belt, just to make sure that it's not too loose or too tight. It seems good. We'll probably check the antifreeze and the engine oil. The antifreeze is full. Sorry, some of these log manifolds, it's actually really hard to check the oil on it because where the dipstick goes, it's a very tight fit. But this setup is pretty much just like a basic eBay turbo kit. Not expecting really big numbers with it, with the log manifold and eBay turbo, but we're gonna see what we can do with it and see if everything feels good. We're gonna keep going. If it seems limited, I'm probably not gonna do much with it. This car is running a set of the Hunter Tune normal style truck injectors with the top hats, and it has an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator. Our base pressure on this car, it looks like it's set to about 60 PSI, which is good. I usually run anywhere between 40 and 60 on Honda stuff. This car does not have a boost control on it. It just is running off the reference on the wastegate. I have a couple springs here too if we want to spring this up or down. And this car, another limiting factor is going to be that it is running the stock map sensor. So we're going to kind of see what kind of power it makes on, say, 10-ish pounds of boost. If it makes good, decent power, we will probably leave it. But if we want to turn it up later, which I feel like we're going to just kind of max it out on the stock map sensor, considering it does have the log manifold. I usually don't like to push these setups on a log, just because the log manifold, I mean, just looking at it kind of explains itself. There's just not a lot of flow through the log manifolds like there is on, say, a top mount or a sidewinder manifold, where you have a lot more volume before the turbo. After I do my little inspection stuff, I'm just going to go through and check what spark plugs we got in this thing. We're going to probably look for like a BKR7 or a 4554, the 8. So if we got one of those plugs in it, we'll be good. And we'll verify that the gap is good. Wow, you can tell this guy watches the videos. It's got the NGK V-Power 8s, which is good. We'll keep those in it. And the gap looks to be good. Around 20 thousandths or so probably. So next step is we're going to get the ECU plugged in and just kind of see what we got for a base map. I guess this car has a base map on it with a 3,000 RPM rev limiter, just so he could drive it here and not get into boost or anything like that. So we're going to go into the computer, probably just throw a completely new tune on it, because it's probably tuned with Chrome, I'm not sure, but it just has a chipped ECU. And we're going to tune it with Honda Tuning Suite probably. Where the hell did my ratchet go? What the hell? Alright, so now we are actually going to get a screwdriver, pop the lid on the ECU, and see what kind of chip and stuff is in here. This car also has all the important stuff. It has a air fuel wideband gauge, it has a boost gauge, and it has an oil pressure gauge. The top 3 gauges I always recommend people run in their setup. Those are the 3 most important ones in my opinion. I feel like a lot of the stuff lately, guys, is just, I don't know, to me it feels repetitive because all I'm doing is dyno tuning stuff, but I hope you guys are still enjoying the channel. And I try my hardest to keep it entertaining and keep it interesting, but at the same time, like, it's really hard for me to focus on making videos and doing YouTube stuff lately for some reason. I don't know, my heart's just not in it lately. And I'd rather just put something out for you guys rather than nothing, so just trying to film through my day. Maybe I'll just start doing that, and I'll just literally film my day every day and just film it and then edit every night. It's just a lot of time that goes into this YouTube stuff. And for me personally, it doesn't pay much at all, so it's hard for me to justify when I can be out at the shop working, focusing more on you know, making money, you know. It's just tough for me to like focus on making a video, focus on, you know, all that kind of stuff, and then at the end of the day still have customers blowing me up, and I don't know, whatever. I enjoy what I do, so thank you for that. All right, so I just got back from the gas station. I picked up a couple gallons of ethanol, and now we are just draining the rest of the pump gas out of this car, so we can have a good E85 blend. Usually when I do it this way, I leave, before I'm done tuning the car, I'll add an additional 5 to 10% of fuel into the whole tune before I give it back to the customer, because doing it this way, from my experience, you get 95% of the gas out of it. The additional 5% is still gas in the tank, so when you pour ethanol on top of it, it's not a true E85 quite yet, but would be once you run like another tank or two through the system. But I got my tuning laptop set up in this thing, and I just got a base map with HTS on it. It's running pretty smooth. Well, not really smooth anymore because it's running out of fuel. And I had to take a little bit of a break from working on this thing because customer actually just dropped off another vehicle for me to work on. So there's a little sneak peek for you guys. Super stoked and super blessed, honestly, that these guys are bringing me these awesome builds to work on and putting their trust and faith into Hunter Tune. If you would ask me, honestly, guys, that even three years ago or whatever I started the channel, if you'd have told me that I'd have come this far, man, it is truly a blessing. I've just been trying to work hard and do everything I can to help all you guys out, and I hope I'm doing a good job. So I'll catch up with you guys when we get the ethanol poured in this thing. This thing's probably gonna run for a couple more minutes yet, so. All right, guys, we got some ethanol in the tank, and I went in and added in about 40% overall fuel, and we're looking good, guys. So next, I'm going to get the timing sync to make sure the distributor and the ECU are correlating with each other. So when I tell the computer, hey, give me 10 degrees of timing or 20 degrees of timing, the distributor isn't off balance by 4 or 5 degrees. So my 20 degrees on the laptop would actually be like 24 degrees at the motor, which would, you know, could hurt stuff. So that's why it's important to sync your timing. And also I did the TPS sync on HTS, which is fairly easy. You just go to the TPS sensor here. And then you just hit calibrate TPS while you're data logging, and then it prompts you to go to 100% throttle, and then you hit next. It's super easy. And now our TPS is synced. Beforehand, the TPS was reading 7% at idle and like 112 or something at wide open. So now it is reading 0 at idle and 100% at wide open. So next, we are going to go to data log, connect here, and then we go to tools on the top of HTS here, and we can actually go to ignition lock, and then we hit sync 16 and 16, so it locks the ignition at 16 degrees. So now we can go grab our timing light, and if you have an adjustable light, you can you can set the gun for 16 and shoot for top dead center, because 16 and 16 would be TDC. And if you don't have an adjustable gun, you'll shoot for the center of the 3 stripes on the crank pulley. But I like to set it at 16, and then I set it at 0 and verify it's good there as well, to make sure my gun is not malfunctioning. Because I just have a cheaper timing light. This one works good, but I've had issues with some of these in the past. But yeah. Anyways, we're gonna get to timing this thing. Alright guys, so the timing was actually spot on. They must have timed it before. So, good job getting this thing timed up. And now we'll end sync. And we will run this thing through the gears. And I have a pretty soft ignition table in it right now. And yeah, we're just gonna leave ignition timing really soft. By soft I mean, so we're gonna run like 21 degrees at 5.5 pounds of boost, and at 11 pounds we're running 16 degrees just because we're gonna get a feel for everything, make sure the boost isn't gonna run away. And this car does have a full exhaust, which might choke it up a little bit, and that log manifold. It's probably not gonna want a lot of timing, but we start low, work our way up. Never start high and work your way down. That's not the right way to do things. Or start lean and get richer. You always want to start rich and low timing, and then slowly lean out and slowly add power into the motor, not opposite. So my base map runs pretty damn good. There's a couple little spots cruising where I might have to adjust some things. So I'm going to slowly walk into the throttle. Okay, she's mad. She's mad. It was like breaking up right when I would initially go into it. Okay, so we need fuel pretty much everywhere above cruising. So we're going to scale this thing over. Coming into it a little more. And I'm just going to try to kind of build up the torque curve with fuel here. This is a lot higher compression engine than the base map that I have in here. This base map's from a B, just like a normal LS, but this is a high compression LS VTEC, so it's going to want a little bit more fuel, I think. And this was a flex injector tune, and I'm changing it to a normal decapped truck injector. Alright, so we'll update these changes. I kind of just scaled the map, so it's gradually bringing more fuel in. We'll see what it does now. Looking a little better, still lean down low. So like right when I first walk into it, it goes like 16. So that's going to be the area right before wide open. Alright, so I adjusted the area right before wide open. Let's see if it clears up a little now. Yep. Nope. Add a little bit more here. I think I'm going to try to just maybe smooth a lot of this out. Try to just smooth this area coming into boost. Give it an inner plate by row and column here. Let's see if that kind of fixes our issue. Yep, now it's a lot steadier air fuel, so now we'll just chuck in the fuel it needs, and I bet you this will do it. This will be the trick that we need. I think that change just uploaded. Money. So I'm going to, now that we have the fuel straightened out on the low cam side, we are going to go in and turn VTEC off, which it is off, and we're going to see where the boost level's off. So we'll do a data log, we'll do a run, no VTEC, just monitoring air fuel and keeping this soft timing cable in it. And we'll give it a hit. So I'm gonna leave the car cool off for a minute, and then we'll get right back to it. So we are currently having some wideband issues. The car is not working right. So the wideband, one pull it'll be normal, one pull it'll go all over the place, which just tells me like the gauge is going bad or the sensor is going bad on the wideband. So I'm just going to plug in my tuning wideband just to verify that wideband in the car is bad. It's a glow shift wideband, which I don't normally have good luck with. I just sell the AEM ones on my website. That's the stuff that I like to run. So, but 4,000 RPM is all I ran it up to. So currently, I thought I had some wideband issues, but it just seems to be Honda Tuning Suite being a little bit buggy right now, because I lost the tune that I put on, and it like wrote the previous tune that was on my laptop onto the emulator. So fixed that, retuned the fuel map again, and I saved it, so I don't have to. I can always go back to what I have right now. That's always a good thing too, is when you're tuning stuff, keep saving whatever file you have, because no matter what program you're using, there's always little bugs and glitches where if the program crashes, you don't lose everything you just did. I've been there way too many times. But anyways, now we have two widebands in the car. So we have the tuning wideband and the glow shift gauge in the car, and the glow shift's actually reading pretty much right what my AEM is. So I'm just kind of verifying everything, and I did get everything on the low cam side ironed out, and now we can kind of pinpoint where we're going to run our VTEC. I'm probably going to set it at like 4,000 or 4,500-ish. And yeah, so revving the car 55, 6,000 RPM, we're making 155 horsepower, 172 foot-pounds of torque, no VTEC. So we're going to be turning VTEC on now and getting everything tuned up. The car's only on about 5.5 pounds of boost, so hopefully we can make a little bit of power, but probably gonna have to spring up the gate a little. But yeah, we'll see what this next one does now that VTEC is turned on. Alrighty guys, so I got VTEC working, and I'm gonna show you what I did to get it working. Is I just did the VTEC pressure bypass like I do on a lot of cars when I wire them. When I wire the VTEC, pretty much you just want to run the single wire to the VTEC solenoid, and then at the ECU you combine A4 and D6 into the same wire. And the way this was wired previously and why it wasn't working is because the A4 was in the right position for the VTEC solenoid, and D6 was actually on the wrong side of the plug. So when you're looking at these ECU plugs, from the bottom of the ECU, it's going to go, the starting of the pins is going to be to the left. So A4 is going to be the second one over, because the bottom row on the bottom side of the ECU is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. All the even ones are on the bottom, and all the odd numbers are on the top. So the top pins go 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. And they had D6 on the wrong side of the plug. It was the third from the end, but it was the third from the end on the wrong side. So they had it pinned in, what spot would that be, like, 14 or something. So now we have VTEC working and we're losing power. We put VTEC on and it dove rich, and then it just wants to be up higher, I think. So we're going to have to raise VTEC up. It's currently at 4,500, and when I tried to smack it with VTEC at 4,500, it dove really rich and it just wasn't happy. So what I'm going to do this next pull is I'm going to raise VTEC to 5,500 and see what the outcome is then. Alright guys, so a little bit more dynoing and a little bit more overlaying some pulls back to back with VTEC on and off, and you guys can see here that we got an issue somewhere. Blue is the line with VTEC off, and orange is the one with the VTEC on. So turning VTEC on, it's actually losing power. And I pulled the solenoid off of it. I went through the wiring here, and I have the solenoid off. I have all the spark plugs out of it, and I figured maybe the screen was clogged or something on the solenoid, but the screen is not clogged, which tells me this motor is good. So I think next step, honestly, I'm gonna have to pull the valve cover. I'm gonna verify the valve lash and verify the timing belt timing. Even though the distributor looks to be in the right position, it may be a tooth off, but I don't know. So that's what I'm gonna do when I pick up in a minute. So that's what I'm gonna do next, is pull the valve cover quick. Steady grinding on this thing I am. Got the valve cover off. The timing is perfect on the timing belt, so that is good. One thing to note that I did find is this motor is extremely hard to turn over with the ratchet here. I usually just be able to, wing it around. Like, literally, guys, I can't turn this motor. It's so tight. I don't know why it's so tight. It's got good oil pressure and it's not sending metal everywhere. So, yeah. The motor being tight would make sense if A, the plugs were in it, or B, it had metal shavings in the VTEC solenoid, which it has no shavings in the VTEC solenoid, because that would just indicate, like, hey, there's a bearing failure going on here, which there's not. Otherwise there'd be metal in there normally, and the oil pressure would be low, which it's not. So another thing I did inspect while the cover was off is I just checked the valve lash while it was at TDC. I just checked the #1 cylinder here. And these guys, I could fit a 13 thou feeler gauge in the one, and the other one's around 11, 12 thou, which it should be. I like to set them a little tight, honestly. I like to go 8 thousandths on the exhaust and 6 on the intake. That's where I usually set them. So I'm gonna lash the valves just because it does need it anyways. It's a little loose. And I will report back after I get this valve lash done. So I'll just go through it and set them at 8 and 6. That's what I do. The spec is 7 to 9, or 7 to 9. 9 is the tight side of the stock spec. 11 is the loose side of the spec. But yeah, I'm just gonna do that, and I'll report back. All right, guys, I did a couple more pulls with the car, setting VTEC in a whole bunch of different places. I tried to kind of rev the car out a little farther to see if maybe these cams are just super aggressive or something and the cam gears are way off, to see if it would like really just crazy shoot up at, you know, 6,000, 7,000 RPM, and it's just not doing nothing. VTEC does not seem to be working, and I have done everything in my power to try to get it done and to try to make it work. So that's just, it is what it is. Sometimes these things just don't go as planned, and you can only do so much with what you're dealt. So yeah, I feel like the customer's probably going to figure out what's going on in the cylinder head. I think it's in the cylinder head, but like I said, it could also be in the bottom end with how hard this motor is to turn over. And it does make a little bit of noise. The engine's a little noisy, but it's not like rod knocking or anything like that. It's just kind of noisy. But anyways, guys, that's, like I said, that's probably it. You know, it sucks, but sometimes this is how it be. This is how it be sometimes. So we're gonna get this thing unstrapped. I gotta throw the valve cover back on, and we'll move it out of here, or move it in the shop so we can get some other cars pulled in, and I got some other stuff scheduled to come in here. But like I said, you know, sucks. Sometimes the builds and cars and stuff like that, you know, you got to work through bugs before you get the fun. So, and this is one of those cases where customer is going to have to work through some bugs, bring it back, and we'll get it dialed in at a later date. I got a freaking mess up here. But god damn. Shop's full. Actually, I could probably fit another 6 cars in here. But, yeah, that's going to be it, guys. That's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and stick around for more. We'll probably get to doing some small things on the RSX tomorrow. I already got a little bit of a head start on it, with a little bit of help from A21 Bravo. Go check out his channel as well. A21 Bravo, Ryan, has been a help to me the last couple days with doing a little bit of TIG welding. So, yeah. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night and a better